We're going to start our evening with Mary Richards leading us in America the Beautiful. And the words are right here.
So this just goes to show you I have no shame. I will give you the starting pitch, and I will expect you to sing loud, because this song is one you all learned in grade school, right? Okay, at least I hope.
Shall we stand?
Shall we stand? Well, you're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance after this, so why don't we just stand to begin with, okay? Da, pa, pa, pa. Oh, beautiful, for spacious sky, forever rays of rain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Here's our flag.
Are you going to read the pledge?
Yeah, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess let the meeting begin. So we're going to start off with the recognition of our lifetime members, our elected officials, past presidents, and such. So if you see a lady at your table or around the room that has a vase with 2 roses in it, it's sitting in front of her, they are our golden members. They've been members of the League here for 50 years. And we would have a new one to join this group this year, Sandra McJimsey. So, but she's joining, our Jan Barron, Marilyn Haynes, Johnny Hammond, Jerry Prescott, and Mary Richards. And these ladies, they're still active in our league, so thank you for being here for us. We have several elected officials here tonight. We have Senator Herman Quirmbach, our 2 House representatives are in-house tonight in Des Moines. So they were unable to, I don't think they're going to be done, but they needed to stay in Des Moines tonight. So, but we have our county supervisor, Linda Merkin, and Latifa Faisal. And she had to leave. There's something, track meet? Was that somebody else? There's track meets all over the place tonight. So, and our our city council person, Gloria Betcher. Oh, you know what? I forgot the person that I work with the most. What the league does, our county auditor, Lucy Martin. Oh, I can't believe I forgot you. I'm sitting at the table and doing this. So, if you are a past president of the Ames Story County League, stand up. You deserve a hug. You deserve a crown. Thank you for your service. And if you're presently a member of the board, would you please stand up? I love this board. They never say no. You'll get to meet several of them throughout the evening because they show up on the program. So, we did lose 4 members of our local league this year. Virginia Slater, Jackie Manat, those 2 ladies were past presidents. Nancy Marks, she was a go-getter. What a wonderful woman. And David Haynes, really represented with Maryland. So if just, keep them in your hearts. They were, it's happening out there, folks. So, but thank you for their many years. So, okay, this is where I get to make my reflection of the year. So, okay, I'm completing my 3rd year as president of the Ames Story County League. After 3 years, you lose a little spark, but I can't imagine not having the league responsibilities and opportunities to enrich all our lives. So I'm going to highlight some of the things that we're working on and doing. Without news, we lose. We are all aware that good news coverage builds a strong community and democracy. Through the league involvement, we have formed the Mid-Iowa Community News Team. We have met every 2 weeks since last July to set vision, mission, and values for the establishment of covering Ames and Story County with current events. News, sports, and arts and entertainment. We are working to make this successful. Please give your feedback and support for this much needed coverage for our area. This is a new project, so watch for it. We've had, the Floras have been very active, Ann Kinsel and Lynn Carey, in helping to get what we want for this. So it'll be a digital, we hope it all works, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. The league has launched our Observer Corps on KHOI. Members are attending city council, school board, county supervisor, special committee meetings, and special events. Our members will give a report on KHOI Local Talk, which is archived on their website. KHOI also replays our Learn with the League programs. Contact Devon Lewis if you want to be a part of the group covering our community. So if you go out there, you see this, you want to go to city council meetings every week, or you want to go to the Parks and Rec Board, there's a clipboard back there for you to sign up and stand up. This is the easiest lady to have you interview with. I love working with her, so she's wonderful. Thank you. Devon got ill today and couldn't be with us, or she would be talking you into this. Okay. The league reaches out to the Story County community through candidate forums. We had Ames City and School forums for the 2023 fall election. We also had a forum for the Zering City Council and 2 for the Huxley City Council. All forums are recorded, put on Facebook and YouTube, replayed on KHOI Community Radio. Along with forums, the Voter Service Committee does many voter registration events for Story County by participating in Juneteenth, ISU Welcome Fest, weekly at Dog-Eared Books, National Voter Registration Day in September, and wherever we could set up a table to reach out and educate people how the candidates on the ballot support issues, and are those issues ones that you vote to support? The Voter Service Committee has many opportunities for members to be involved in the 2024 election. Contact Barb Peterson. Stand up, Barb. It's going to take work from all of us to get students at Iowa State and locally educated with the Vote 411 program and stuff. So contact Barb, we're out there. There's a clipboard in the back probably that you can contact or just grab her. This brings me to the man, and I'm missing a page. Maybe not. To the man in front of all these league events, Dennis Goodrich. Where'd he go? Thank you for recording our many events and getting them out to the community. I have to share the secret behind all the great things we are able to do. A very hardworking board. Not only do we have the events I mentioned, we have the Learn with the League, welcoming of new members, the coffee thing. Boy, if you want to get your blood pressure up, come to Wheatsfield the second Tuesday of every month for coffee. We'll talk about it, don't we? So we do the wind down at the Torrent on the third Wednesday. And again, you know, we get her talked out and we talk about all kinds of things. So we did a mock caucus with the ARC in January. That was exciting. So we do the 4th of July parade. Sign up for the 4th of July parade. We had about 20 people march with our group last year. It's fun. And a dedicated treasurer. Stand up. I was a treasurer for 4 years. I know how much work she does. Sandra McKenzie knows how much work she does. So I thank you for letting me continue to be president of the league. So my theme this year is going to be power. League is power. And so the source of our power is you. You are here to make a difference. You believe in our country. You are strong and able. And you are ready to get it done. So, thank you. And this is where, there she is. Barb Wheelock received the Carrie Chapman Cat Award a year ago, and so she has the honor of presenting the Carrie Chapman Cat Award to Linda Hagedorn.
Yes. So I am really pleased to be able to introduce our Carrie Chapman Cat Award winner, Dr. Linda Hagedorn. Do we have Linda come up now?
Yeah, come on up.
Come on up, Linda. So my first interaction with Linda was when I was on the nomination committee, and we were looking for a president for the board, and we weren't having much luck. It takes a lot of time, a lot of responsibility, a lot of work. Somebody suggested Linda Hagedorn, said she'd be great. I went, yes, and I called her right away. It wasn't too far into our conversation where she shared with me that she had not even been a member of the league for a full year. And so she was a little concerned about taking on that responsibility, not having been with the organization that long. Luckily, she let me twist her arm and she jumped in and she did a great job. She tackled the task with energy and drive. She showed sensitive and tactful leadership, which is so important to have a group run smoothly. She now serves as advisory past president, and she's also chair of the program and scholarship committees. She was an integral part of the League's study on rural transportation. She utilized her research and communication skills to develop a very professional program that she presented to the membership and also to the Story County Board of Supervisors. Linda's commitment extends beyond just local. She serves on the State League of Women Voters Board, and she also works on committees for the League of Women Voters United States. Linda has served as president for both the Study of Higher Education and the Council for the Study of Community Colleges. She's also served as associate dean for the College of Human Services at Iowa State and associate director for the Center of Higher Education Policy. Linda works with community colleges nationwide and internationally to benefit young people and late learners. Linda's energy, passion, and dedication for all of her endeavors makes her truly worthy of this award.
I think, Linda, you can stay up here. Because she's, what? Yes, this is where we move on to the scholarships. We're very pleased to have several scholarships to award this evening. So.
Well, let me start by saying how deeply honored I am to have received that award. And Carrie Chapman Catt's legacy of advocacy and empowerment has really been a guiding light for me. And I really want to thank the League of Women Voters and for all they do. And let's keep working together to help our community.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the scholarships. This is the third year that we've been able to award scholarships. This year we've expanded to 6 scholarships for a total of $2,000. Half of that money is derived from our local league through membership fees. The other half is direct from donor contributions. This year, we're going to be giving 6 awards. The scholarship process is open to all Story County students who are graduating any high school in Story County, and the students must be attending an accredited college in the state of Iowa. It can be a community college, a university, a trade school, as long as it's accredited. We sent out applications through every high school in Story County. We've asked for 2 essays in that application. The first essay was about their students' civic interests and their past involvement in humanitarian type events. And the second essay was about identifying a pressing local, state, or national issue with which they deeply resonated, and how they were going to then carry on in the future advocating and teaching others about that event. We had an excellent scholarship committee, as we've had in years past, and a special thank you goes to Marcia Thompson. Marcia, stand up, please. Marcia worked tirelessly. So she co-chaired the committee with me, but Marcia really did a major part of the work. Included in the scholarship committee is Ruth Barnett, Judy Jones, and Marcia Imsande. Thank you, ladies, for helping us. Maybe you can stand up too. Ruth Barnett, Judy Jones, and Marcia Imsande. Stand up and be recognized. Thank you. Yes. Okay. I'm going to start with the very first scholarship. The first scholarship we call the League of Women Voters of Ames, Story County Character and Service Scholarship. This year, the award goes to Miss Kaylin Banks. Kaylin, can you come on up, please? Is she here? Yeah, there she is. Kaylin is graduating from Nevada High School. She's going to be attending ISU and plans to major in engineering. The committee was impressed by the number of volunteer projects that Kaylin participated in. She was vice president of Key Club and has volunteered at Food at First. She is passionate about climate change. And a quote from her essay is, "My future will allow me to expand my knowledge on environmental issues and provide real solutions to climate change." Kaylin, it is my honor to present you with this certificate and with this check. Okay, congratulations. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure to give the Future Leader Scholarship to Catherine Rouse from Colonesco High School. She is going to be attending Morningside High School and majoring in secondary education, which I think is extra wonderful. Catherine has been very active in high school in leadership roles. She has volunteered at the Marshalltown Veterans Home. She has been a president for 3 years of her student body and is also president of the Student Council, and has participated in activities sponsored by the school. She has been very observant when she was in high school of other students and how they have benefited from their secondary education, and so has chosen that to be her career. Thank you so much, Catherine. I'd like to present you with this certificate and check and the feather.
Our next is the Mary Richards Academic Award, and that is being presented by Marcia Thompson.
I would like to first call up the students who will be receiving this award, Emma Stropman, and the other honor award goes to Lindsay Gertis. So if those two girls would please come up first, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, you could stand right here. I'm very pleased to present these two important awards that are honoring not just these two girls, but also two long-standing and outstanding members of the League of Women Voters. And these women didn't know this until tonight, but I would like to call forth Mary Richards and Bev Crumple. Come up. We started this award 2 years ago when the scholarships were first begun, and the first one went to Jean Peterson, as you may remember, 100-year-old Jean Peterson. Last year, they went to, keep coming. You have to get your folder. We'll just switch it over in a minute. Here, Mary. And last year they went for Jan Barron and for Johnny Hammond. And so this year we've chosen these two women who are long-serving members for both the community and for the League of Women Voters. These two women, I want you to know, have contributed a great amount of time and talent to this community, to the county, and to the state of Iowa, and even internationally. So take a good look at your mentors and at the people that are going to be honoring you as well as they are being honored. The first honor member is given in recognition of Mary Richards, a 50-year League member. Mary graduated from Ohio University with a bachelor's degree in education, that's number one, and then a master's degree in political science from Iowa State, and then finally a law degree from Drake University. Mary is known for playing the harp. Well, if she wasn't before, she is now. It's out. Actually, in addition to her musical talent, her major name recognition is for her 16 years as Story County attorney. 16 years. 20? Oh, your biography said 16. 20. Oh, yeah. During which time she served as the first woman president of the Iowa Association of County Attorneys. And she also served on various committees at the national level. Much of her life's work has been centered on justice, particularly for youth. Also, she worked recently with the League of the Iowa Sentencing Reform Committee. She's active with KHOI Community Radio and in the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship outreach and support programs for vulnerable populations. Mary is a valued member of the League Book Club, where she helps parse legal and social issues and contributes wisdom from her experiences and persistent inquiring mind. Mary is the past recipient of the Carrie Chapman Cat Award and was inducted into the Iowa Women's Hall of Fame in 2022. So let's hear from Mary. Okay, Mary, I'd like to have you meet Emma, and Emma, if you'll step forward and go over to Mary. Emma is an active member, she's from Nevada High School. She's an active member of Rotary and the National Honor Society and has volunteered for Food at First and Day of Service, which is an important activity in the Nevada school. She's also a multi-sport athlete. Did you ever play against Caitlin Clark? No. Perhaps you might have. She feels the most important activity she participated in at Nevada High School was a class called Advocate. And she worked for 4 years with this group, helping middle school students who had physical and mental challenges. That's an amazing experience for a high school student to have. She feels that from this experience, she learned both communication and problem-solving skills, as well as an understanding of the uniqueness of each individual person. And this is quoted from her essay. This is her writing. As a result, the career path she has chosen is elementary education at Iowa State. She states that she has a passion for education and wants to learn about, support, and promote all that is good for schools. She paid close attention to the bills surrounding the dismantling of the AEAs in the Iowa legislature this past session and appreciates their importance in equalizing education for all students. One line from her essay that made me realize she will be a good scholar is, "I have much more to learn." Okay. Mary, you can stay here. Both of you can just stay here because they'll want to take a photo afterwards. It's easier if you're in one place. Okay, Bev, could you come forward? Okay, thank you. The next scholarship honors Bev Crumple, an active League member who served as president of the League in 1996 and secretary, get this, from 2000 to 2012. That's a long time to listen and write. She also routinely assisted with projects and studies generated by issues at the city, county, and state levels. She brought personal wisdom along with academic and civic experience to the League. Bev holds an undergraduate degree from ISU, a master's degree from the University of Wisconsin, Go Badgers, and a PhD from Iowa State as well. She served on the Iowa State faculty, where one of the students noted that she was a person of keen intelligence, kindness, and commitment to social advocacy. That's a ringing endorsement, a wonderful endorsement. Bev also served as a missionary and ambassador from the Collegiate Methodist Church to the Philippines, where she did everything from speaking to groups of people in encouragement, organizing activities for young people and adults, and painting and repairing homes. A happy and friendly person, Bev has used her energy and many talents to help others learn and live a better life. She is a valuable member of the League of Women Voters of Ames and Story County and was honored for her work with the Carrie Chapman Cat Award. Okay? All right. Lindsay Gertis is involved in numerous civic activities in the Nevada community and beyond, among them Key Club, Food at First, the Animal Shelter, and then Access, which is the women's shelter in Ames. Lindsay is a skilled fundraiser at her young age, so perhaps she'll join League one of these days and help us. Helping organizations such as UNICEF and local entities such as the Cubby's Cupboard and Harmony Closet, which provide food donations and clothing recycling for local residents. Lindsay has also moved outside the Nevada community by encouraging family and friends to donate toys to Blank Children's Hospital in Des Moines. As a member and officer of the high school student council, she has planned events for charity and takes pride in encouraging others to volunteer. One issue Lindsay feels strongly about is funding education, and she has made it a point to gain firsthand knowledge about inequity in education by visiting schools and seeing the difference in education in lower income schools. She also believes strongly about educating herself on issues, advocating for good outcomes for everyone, and is already a voter. She's determined to continue her involvement and to help others become involved and follow her lead. Okay?
Thank you.
All of these awards will also be presented at the high school activities assemblies.
Our fifth scholarship will be presented by Ann Kinzel.
Well, first I want to thank the League for giving me the opportunity to award this scholarship to a fine young woman, Megan Roesch, a student at Ballard High School who will be attending Buena Vista University next fall. I have read Megan's essay, and I have no doubt that the scholarship committee has selected a worthy recipient of the scholarship honoring my friend and inspiration, Diane Milutinovich. In Megan's essay, she lists among other community-oriented accomplishments her role as a strong advocate for girls' sports. Megan has been a competitor, participating in basketball and soccer, and she'll be playing that at Buena Vista, and credits her involvement in athletics for providing her with physical benefits, improved mental health, social interaction, time management skills, and self-confidence. I think we all better sign up, right? Megan also volunteers in youth soccer, where she introduces girls to the fun sports can provide and where she hopes to instill a love for the game that girls can carry into high school and beyond. This is important because without Diane Milutinovich, my friend, there is no opportunity for Caitlin Clark and Megan Roesch to compete and grow from sports participation. Diane Milutinovich has been among the most fierce advocates for the rights of girls and women in sports over the 50 years since Title IX was introduced into the law. Diane competed at the highest levels of softball before Title IX was enacted. But it was as an athletics administrator at California State University, Fresno, that Diane committed to speaking truth to power, pushing the recalcitrant and the downright hostile to honor the promise of civil rights for women by equitably funding athletics. For this, Diane was fired and ultimately had to sue the California State University system to regain her job, eventually losing her career in athletics, but settling for financial compensation. That didn't stop Diane as she continued helping others speak truth to power by serving as an expert witness and consultant in Title IX athletics equity cases, including ones where institutional behavior was so egregious that juries awarded Fresno State female coaches over $18 million in damages, which remains the highest verdicts to jury in Title IX history. Just Google Diane Milutinovich if you're curious. So Megan has a lot to live up to.
No, it's okay.
So remember, that's why without Diane, there's no Caitlin. And that's why I'm inspired to fund this scholarship in Diane Milutinovich's name to support young women like Megan Roetter, because power is not listening as well as it should. Power. And we still have a lot of speaking to do. So thank you, Megan, for everything that you're doing to help girls enjoy sports and life. And I'm honored to present you with this certificate, this scholarship. I wish you the best at Buena Vista, and I know you're going to do really well.
Thank you.
Trained on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. Trained on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. Trained on freedom. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Freedom in America is the right to vote. And that's what we are all about.
That was Dr. Deborah Turner, our National League president, 1 year ago at this annual meeting. She passed away on January 28. It is an honor to award a scholarship in Dr. Turner's name. I met Dr. Turner in 1988. She was my sister's OBGYN doctor at the University of Iowa Hospital. She gave my sister 33 more years to be with me. She saved her life. After that, she was Deb. We both joined the League in 2010. And she is an inspiration for us all. She received her Bachelor of Science from Iowa State, her Doctor of Medicine at the University of Iowa, and her Juris Doctorate at Drake University Law School. Deb valued education and leadership. That brings us to our sixth recipient, Amelia Brook. Amelia Roesch is from Roland Story High School and will be attending Drake University. Amelia serves on the Roland Story School Board as the first non-voting student representative. She is also a house page at the Iowa Capitol. She's into politics, folks. These experiences will be assets for Amelia for future engagement in civic matters and being a positive impact, these are her words, on Iowans and people across the nation. She's got a big desire. So here you go. And I've also included the story about Dr. Turner. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay. Goodness, it's fun to feel. There's one more important person here tonight. Betty, you want to come up and acknowledge that, and then we'll get on with our keynote speaker. Great.
If the Making Democracy Work Award criteria were blended into a fine wine, it would be named Lynn Carey. The criteria include envisioning ways to improve community, vibrant, inclusive, fairness, equality, diversity, joining with others, preserving democracy. All these terms describe both who Lynn is and what she has done over several decades, not to make you feel old, but in her paid and volunteer works within the Ames community. My earliest impression of Lynn was when I met her in the late 1990s, and I thought she knew everybody and was connected to everything.
She does.
She does. As I grew to meet her more over the years, I learned that she had not only great connections, but she had great ideas, an insightful thought process, lots of energy, and the ability to follow through and turn those ideas into reality. A few of the areas where Lynn has invested her time and her skills over the year include 36 years at the Ames Public Library, and as a volunteer with KHOI Community Radio, Raising Readers, and a community project to elevate local media. These represent some of the most important and most current of Lynn's community activities, but are really just the tip of a very large iceberg. I'm sure many will think of Lynn in her foundational work and her role as assistant director and later director of the Ames Library, and others will probably simply want to expand on this list. After retiring from the Ames Library in 2019, Lynn became a volunteer and envisioned ways to guide both Raising Readers and KHOI Community Radio through some very difficult periods, including relocating both organizations at the same time. Both were complicated tasks involving finding not only the right space, but definitely guiding the programming and the volunteer efforts through the change process. Both groups are today stronger and more vibrant because of Lynn's leadership. Both groups are foundational to growing a vibrant democracy in our community for both today and tomorrow. As the KHOI website notes, community radio is fundamentally not a technical enterprise, but a venture into building humanity. It is community space for people to meet and collaborate. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize Lynn Carey for her work to improve our community over many years in many, many ways. As supporters, one of the supporters of Lynn's nomination noted, she is a living example of making democracy work.
I thought she should say something.
Okay.
Look, I know you won't. Oh, wait, she's got a whole sheet of things she must talk about. Our two recipients, the Carrie Chapman Cat and the Making Democracy Work Award, they chose to get a brick on the Plaza of Heroines at the Carrie Chapman Cat Hall on University campus.
So one of the things I said I would not do when I retired, I would not take on a leadership position in any organization. The other was I would not do public speaking. So this makes me very, very nervous. And I didn't know if I needed to say anything tonight or not, but I do know that I need to say thank you, thank you, thank you. It means so much to me to be honored with this award, although I had to call Carolyn from New Zealand, where I was vacationing, because I was really excited when I found out about this. And I said, I'm so happy that KHOI is being honored with the Making Democracy Work Award. She's like, no, it's you. And I'm like, no, because I knew I would be here tonight with all of you, and each and every one of you could be standing up here receiving a Making Democracy Work Award, because that's what it takes. So I found two little quotes that I want to string together, and I'm happy to do this because it has the word power in it.
Oh, good.
So the first one is from Abby Hoffman. Democracy is not something you believe in or a place to hang your hat, but it is something you do. If you stop doing it, democracy crumbles. So, a revolutionary said that. The next one is from Bill Blackman. Democracy and freedom are the best revolution. They can give every individual more power. to control their lives, and we can work together to create a just, sustainable world. And that's what we're all doing. This award is for all of us. Thank you so much.
We're moving right along. Thank you. This brings us to our keynote speaker, and Mary Sand has the honor of introducing Dr. Sally Roesch Wagner.
It is indeed my honor and great pleasure to introduce our keynote, Dr. Sally Roesch Wagner. And she did correct me on the pronunciation of her name. It is Rush and not Roche. Okay. Dr. Wagner is a distinguished historian, author, and educator. She earned one of the first doctorates in the U.S. for work in women's studies from UC Santa Cruz. She went on to establish the Women's Studies program at CSU Sacramento and has taught women's studies for over 50 years. She holds a faculty position with the Syracuse University Renee Crown Honors Program. A foremost scholar of the suffragist movement, Dr. Wagner has written extensively on the subject. Many of you are already familiar with her anthology, The Women's Suffrage Movement, which is available for purchase if you don't have it at the table in the back, as well as 2 other additional books related to her topic of her talk today. Just doing a little marketing for you, Dr. Wagner. Okay. She is also a movie star, of course. She appeared in Ken Burns' documentary, Not for Ourselves Alone, I've seen this, as well as the Smithsonian Museum of the American Indian film, Without a Whisper. I've also seen that. You can view that on both of these on PBS if you have Passport. That's both for PBS and Dr. Wagner. Okay. Dr. Wagner is founder and past executive director of the Matilda Jocelyn Gage Foundation and Center for Social Justice Dialogue in Fayetteville, New York. The mission there is, and I took this from the internet, quote, dedicated to educating current and future generations about Gage's work and its power to drive contemporary social change. I'd like to know more about that. The title of her talk today is Women Voted on This Land Before Columbus. Join me now in welcoming Dr. Sally Roesch Wagner.
Well, I didn't know I was a movie star until I came to Ames, Iowa. First time I've ever been called that. I like to acknowledge the ancestral land that I'm on each time I do a talk. And if you'll bear with me, I'm not sure of the pronunciation. The ancestral lands of the Bakotsi. And this land was received and taken from the Meskwaki and Sauk nations by the U.S. government. So, acknowledging those who were here before us. I want to thank Carolyn and for your wonderful hosting, and all of you who have fed me and taken me from place to place. I've really enjoyed my time here. And I also want to thank all of you, the League of Women Voters, for fighting to keep democracy in the United States. It's such important work that you're doing. But you've been sitting for a long time, so why don't you just stand for a minute and stretch? And When you sit down, you are instructed to sit with your back against the chair and suck in your gut. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine that your waist is so restricted that you can hardly breathe, okay? And you are sitting ramrod straight. You're doing a great job right there. Yeah. You win the award. And I want you to see how long you can maintain that. Because I want you to know this is what you would have felt every day of your life if you had lived 150 years ago. Because you would have been corseting to hopefully an 18-inch waist. Romantic for him to be able to encase your waist with his fingers. You would have been corseting since you were probably 10 years old, so that by the time you were my age, you would not be able to stand up. Your muscles would be so atrophied. 20 pounds of clothing suspended from that waist. Heels that threw you off balance. And then you saw women who lived close to you, who were wearing moccasins, soft shoes, who were wearing a loose-fitting tunic, and you saw the possibility of moving in a way that you didn't even know women could move. You are in the Oneida community, a utopian community in upstate New York, and you developed the first reform costume in the United States by white women, and you know what it was? It wasn't trousers, it was leggings. Who wore leggings? The indigenous women on whose land you were living. The Oneida women, and you use your clothing to create a new form of independence for women. If you go to Syracuse University or the Oneida Community House, you can see the actual costumes that they developed. Loose-fitting dresses to the waist, loose at the waist, and then about the knee and leggings underneath. And you look very much like the indigenous women whose land you're living on. Influenced? Well, I don't know any European women who wore leggings that buttoned onto their skirts. I think this is part of the influence of the Haudenosaunee, the Six Nations of what white people labeled the Iroquois Confederacy. But, you know, we gave names that their enemies had given them, like the Sioux, Poison Adder. The Haudenosaunee are the Six Nations you may be more familiar with some of the nations. It's a peace confederacy made up of the Mohawk. They're the keepers of the Eastern Door. And then next are the Oneida, the Onondaga, which is the center of the Confederacy. And I live in New York, 20 minutes away from the Onondaga Nation. The next are the Cayuga and the Seneca, and then the Tuscarora came from North Carolina and joined the Confederacy later. So these are the people that we're talking about that influenced, I think, the women's rights movement. And I think there was probably influence beyond just the Haudenosaunee. For example, when Alice Fletcher rose to speak to the International Council of Women in 1888, This was the first time that women gathered internationally on United States soil to talk about their condition. Alice Fletcher was an early ethnographer, an anthropologist, and she began her talk to this group of international women saying, you know, when I was with my Oneida friends, my Omaha friends, the Omaha Nation nearby you, when I was with my friends there, one of the women, actually the host that was keeping me in her home there, gave away a horse. And without thinking, I said, hadn't you better check with your husband first? And she said the merriment with which my words were met was really something. She said, I forgot for just a minute that I wasn't with white women. If you were a white woman 150 years ago, when you married, every single thing that you owned became your husband's. That's including the clothes on your back. There is nothing that you kept for yourself. And you also, anything that you brought into the marriage became your husband's. And he could do anything he wanted to with your possessions because they were no longer yours. Because you ceased to exist legally. Under the Blackstone Code, which was adopted after the Revolution, once women married, they were considered dead in the law. If you're dead in the law, what can you do? Well, you obviously can't vote because you're a non-person. You can't sit on a jury. You can't sue or be sued. You can't own your own body. You have no right to it because that becomes your husband's. A husband had the legal right to beat his wife, and actually the responsibility, because a woman is to be under the authority of her husband, was the religious teaching, right? From the time of Eve and her sin through the New Testament, women are to be under the authority of their husbands once you marry. So if you're disobedient, your husband wants dinner at 5 o'clock. He comes home, dinner isn't on the table. And you give him attitude, he has the legal right to beat you into submission. Supreme Courts in some of the states upheld that, as long as you did not inflict permanent injury. A husband had the legal right to rape his wife. And how was that explained? Well, if the two become one and the one is the man, and the English jurist said, you can't rape yourself. The two become one and the one is the man. So there is not such a thing as marital rape. And in fact, none of those laws were changed until the 1970s and 80s and the second wave of feminism. So, you had no right to your children. A husband could will away an unborn child. On his deathbed, the wife might not even know. She would give birth to the child, her husband has died, and the child is taken away from her and given to its rightful owner. This is the condition of women. Imagine if these women had contact with women whose lives were the mirror opposite. And in fact, they did. The Haudenosaunee women had their own possessions. So did children. Things were collective, but everybody had their own individual possessions as well. And children can do whatever they wanted with their possessions, and women could do whatever they wanted with their personal possessions, and men did as well. Paternity. You are the child of your father, right? That's the way that we determine our lineage, through the father. I remember trying to explain to an Onondaga friend about when you have a child that is born without the father being known, illegitimacy. And she said, "What are you talking? A child is illegitimate? How can a child be illegal?" And I said, "Well, this is the case if you don't know who the father is." And she said, "But you don't always know who the father is, but you always know who your mother is." And so the lineage going through the female. Kids today at the Onondaga Nation or any of the traditional nations of the Haudenosaunee understand themselves as, I am the daughter of, or I am the son of this woman who was the child of this woman who was the child of this woman. The lineage goes through the female. Divorce. If the two become one and the one is the man, and if that is a sacred ceremony, which the Catholic Church in the 1500s declared marriage a sacrament, and that meant then that it was not an agreement between two human beings, it was a covenant with God, which could not be broken. Now, that carried over into law in the United States, so that if a woman, in Elizabeth Cady Stanton said she is in a loveless or dangerous marriage, she should be able to free herself from that. And she was called a heretic for having that view. But she, and let me just read you a description from Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She's quoting actually a missionary to the Seneca Nation who said, if a man is told that he is no longer the husband of the woman, after such an order, he might be ordered to pick up his blanket and budge. And after such an order, it would not be helpful for him to attempt to disobey. In other words, divorce, Haudenosaunee style, was that the woman just simply put his possessions outside. And I have an Oneida friend who said that when her husband did something that was egregious to her, she took all of his belongings and put them on the driveway. And he knew he was done. And I remember there were a group of white women that were discussing this with Native women. And we were saying, well, how do you enforce that? And she said, what do you mean enforce it? He would have nobody would support him. His mother would know that he had done something that he shouldn't have done. Nobody would support him. He came and picked up his belongings and he was gone. And so that continuing today. How did this work? Where were people living and how were they living? Well, you lived in a family with the mother and the father and the sisters, all of the sisters, and their children and their husbands and the unmarried brothers. Because when the brothers married, they would go to live in their wife's longhouse. And so you understand this. Here, the mothers are all mothers together. So they're raising the children together. And in that kind of a situation, and especially with women having a really elevated position, you're living with your mother-in-law, you're living with all of your wife's sisters, and if you misbehave, you're not going to stay there very long. And that was the process. Now, this also is the way in which leadership was chosen. Because here's the grandma watching all of her grandsons grow up, okay? So she's the clan mother, and she's watching these boys. What's the quality that you're looking for? Well, you're not looking for a boy that's going to put himself forward. You're looking for a boy who is going to watch out for everybody's needs. You know, here's an elder. Would you like something to drink? What can I get you? Watching out for others. And she's going to begin to groom him to become the chief after the old chief dies. And when the chief passes, she raises this boy up as the chief. And it's a balance of leadership, okay? It's not women are in a superior position, but it's that they choose the leadership. The women are the clan mother is the eyes and ears of the people, and the chief is the voice. If the voice doesn't listen to the eyes and ears, the clan mother has the responsibility, and she's sitting with him all the time and counseling him, telling him what the people want, the clan people want. If he doesn't listen to her, she has the responsibility to remove him. The conditions of being a chief are, first of all, you can't have committed a murder. This is a peace confederacy. If you're a warrior, you have to step down. The second is you cannot have committed a theft, okay? And you know what the third is? You cannot have abused a woman. I'm going to tell you a personal story. When the previous president was in office, I had a number of clan mothers who asked me very seriously, why don't you women remove him? And my answer was, we don't have the authority. And their response was, a man who behaved like that would be out as chief in a minute. His clan mother would remove him. And I have to tell you that at that point, being a citizen of the Confederacy looked awfully good to me. So this is the logic of the system. I used to say that women had power because it looked like, wait a minute, this kind of looks like a student council to me. You know, ultimately, these guys are accountable to the women. And in fact, when I met Tadadaho, who is the chief of chiefs of the Confederacy, you know what his first word to me was? I mean, he knew that I was a feminist. And I think that, that his statement to me, he said, no woman put me in my place. And I thought about it, I almost couldn't respond. It was such a powerful thing that he said to me, because it was a joke in a way. It was a test. I think it was, are you going to respond to this as a white feminist? Or are you going to understand, you know, that I am not putting myself up here, I am humbling myself in front of you, because I am not responsible to a single woman. I am responsible to 50 women, each clan mother. And if you think about a system, you know, not top down, but really bottom up, really power from the people. That's the system of the Confederacy. Pregnancy. From the time of contact, I went back 300 years to look for contact stories. And here are all these missionaries coming into this new land, new to them, and they're saying, how do these women do it? It's like they don't seem to be suffering in childbirth. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a quote from her, she wrote, "Why do only Christian women suffer in childbirth?" And one missionary actually said, well, I'm pretty sure the reason they don't suffer is because they haven't yet been introduced to Jesus Christ. And they don't know that they're supposed to suffer in childbirth. He later has a little change of heart, I think, and he says, well, maybe it's the way they dress. Maybe it's the way they live. Maybe it's what they eat. Elizabeth Cady Stanton gave birth, and by herself, because the doctor didn't make it in time, and she birthed one of her children actually by herself. And Lucretia Mott wrote to her and said, oh, I heard about this amazing thing that you did. And because she gave birth and then she was immediately up and around. And Lucretia Mott said, I was called a savage for going out a few days after one of my children was born. There was such knowledge about the ease of childbirth. A Seneca man told me, the reason that women never cried or never, made an unhappy noise when they were giving birth was because the mother wanted to make sure that wasn't the first sound that the child heard. And the first thing that they touch is the ground, Mother Earth. I've had conversations with Haudenosaunee men who have asked, and this not judgmentally, but asking in terms of how does somebody think this way, saying, why do white men think that they have something to say about whether or not a woman has a child? That's a woman's decision. And the difficulty of even getting their mind around. Now, I'm going to just give you a real quick history here, a summary, because it relates to what's happening today. 5 minutes? 5 or 10? 5, okay. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I'm just going to jump to something else, okay? If you have a question about what I'm not telling you about women and having a choice, you can ask them the question and answer. But I want to say this, too. The essence, I think, of what Elizabeth Cady Stanton saw with the Haudenosaunee was the sacredness of motherhood. And I don't mean hallmark sacredness. I mean, what is the most sacred of all? It's life, isn't it? I mean, is there anything you can think of? It is not possessions. It is life. And who creates life? Women and Mother Earth. Haudenosaunee men joke to me and say, women are worth twice what men are because they carry life with them. They're the creators of life. And this was literally, in the old time, if you killed a woman, your restitution was twice that as if you had killed a man because of the creators of life. So it's women and Mother Earth. Mother Earth gives us everything that we need to survive. Haudenosaunee women were the agriculturalists. They raised corn, beans, and squash, nutritionally perfect, environmentally perfect. And it's that kind of food that you can live on indefinitely and eat nothing else. They were the agriculturalists because they bring forth life, and they were the ones sacred to bring forth life from the soil. So you have a balance, but you don't have one superior over the other, but you have a spiritual system that elevates life, and so it elevates women and Mother Earth. Mother Earth is not real estate. Mother Earth is our mother. And if you think through what are the consequences of that, what are the ways in which we think differently, we act differently. If we really are matakoyasin, as the Lakotas say, we are all related. We know now scientifically that that spiritual truth of indigenous people is scientifically sound. If we lose the bees, we're gone. We are all related, and we have a responsibility, and in the Haudenosaunee way, we have a responsibility to every living thing. That's the sustainable system that our feminist foremothers saw. And that, I think, given the world they lived in, that told them that it was God ordained and biologically the reality that they were to be under the authority of men. They had to see something that told them that something else was possible. And I think what they saw was Indigenous women. So thank you. And questions, comments? Yes.
How much, when you researched, how much contact did the early suffragists have with the Indigenous women?
Lucretia Mott comes to Seneca Falls after a month with the Seneca as a Quaker. The Philadelphia Friends had a relationship with the Seneca that had gone on for years. And she and James spent a month with them. And that's sort of the energy, I think, that she brought. She saw the women that were deciding what their political what their process would be. And she saw the women being equal participants in that. She saw women plan the strawberry ceremony, which women have the responsibility for planning the sacred ceremonies. And this was, of course, at a time when only Quaker women could speak in church, if you will. The pulpit was, because of the Bible, sanctioned against women speaking in the pulpit. There were no women that were allowed to speak in 1848. So, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, I'll just do a quick summary. They all had, and it wasn't just the suffragists, it was that, you think about, here is a settled community that has a very sophisticated political system, a very sophisticated social and spiritual system, the Haudenosaunee, and there are white settlers coming in, right? They don't know how to produce the food. They don't know any of this. It's the Thanksgiving story all the way across in terms of white settlement, one story after another. And so there's constant contact between the two groups before the reservation system. It was just a regular, normal contact. I tried to figure out, what I went through the newspaper that Matilda Jocelyn Gage would have read. She was one of the suffrage leaders, along with Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, the triumvirate leadership of the National Women's Suffrage Association. And the newspaper that she read, it was when a new chief was raised up in the condolence ceremony. It was written up in the local newspaper like you would write up the election of a president, right? You don't have to say, here is how a president is elected. You didn't have to say, this is how a new chief is condoled and brought into his position, because the readership of the newspaper already knew that information. So you just treat it as a news story. Here's a new chief raised up. Here's the Oneida and the Mohawks are playing lacrosse. Here's what the time is. The newspapers give an indication of the level of knowledge of the white population about the Haudenosaunee. Elizabeth Cady Stanton's husband, Henry, in his autobiography, writes about how when we visited cousin Garrett Smith, this is Elizabeth Cady Stanton's cousin, richest landowner in the state of New York. And he says, when we visited cousin Garrett's house, it was always full of, what did you say, abolitionists, African Americans, and Indians. And so there's this just constant contact. Elizabeth Cady Stanton's nearest neighbor in Seneca Falls was a man who had lived on the Onondaga Nation, been honorarily adopted into one of the clans, and spoke the language. And the newspaper reports say that when his Oneida relatives came through, they stayed with him. This is her nearest neighbor. I mean, the contact is just there. Matilda Jocelyn Gage, the third member of the triumvirate, is given an honorary adoption into the Wolf Clan of the Mohawk Nation in 1893, the same year she's arrested for voting in her own nation. She writes to her daughter, I'm being considered for a place in the Council of Matrons, which would give me a say in the choosing of the chief. So, there was a lot of contact. There's more in my book, but yeah.
Well, do you feel that the suffragists at that time felt about the indigenous women as equals, or was it still sort of a patronizing?
Such a good question. Such a good question. Were they free of racism? No. No. And, you know, the irony is that at the same time that the women are being, these suffrage leaders are being inspired by the Haudenosaunee, the US government and churches are working to destroy the Indians. You know, the idea of the boarding school was you kill the Indian to save the man. Now, I've done a lot of thinking about this. These were not bad people. These were good Christians. And they're good Christians because they understand that the only way to salvation is through a belief in Jesus Christ. So these poor Indians, none of them are going to heaven unless we save them by giving them the only pathway to heaven. And so that was, I think, what, they weren't doing this maliciously. They're doing this out of care. They're doing this out of really, you know, a love in some cases for individual Haudenosaunee, folks that they knew, that they spent time with. But they were doing what they thought they needed to do for these people, and that was to destroy everything Indian about them. And we know the boarding school experience that has repercussions still today. You know, you have generations in what now a Haudenosaunee friend of mine says, we can't call them boarding schools, we have to call them concentration camps. Children were just taken from their families. And As one story Mohawk Man talks about, he and his brother were just walking down the road one day, and a black car came up and stopped by them, grabbed them, put them in the car, and took them to a boarding school. Their father couldn't find where they were for a year. He had no idea where they were. He finally learned where they were, went to see them, was denied the right to see them, and in anger struck the superintendent that was running the boarding school, and he ended up in prison. You know, I remember a Lakota friend coming to visit, and she was there with her grandson. And he was a teenager, and he was, kind of misbehaving, and she just yelled at him and yelled at him, and he got angry and left, and she started crying, and she said, "We don't know how to show love. We don't know any other way to do this." My mother, all she learned in boarding school was to yell if you were upset. And that went back to my grandmother. She said, "We don't know how to parent." We never have had the experience. And if you think about those children being raised without love, the amazing thing is that there is a resilience that the clan mothers at the Haudenosaunee traditional folks, they're still choosing the chiefs. They're still practicing the ceremonies. And I think, I'm an outsider, but what it looks like to me is that there is really a renaissance of going back to who they are and reclaiming who they are. And that's sometimes uncomfortable for us as non-Native people, but it's a very exciting time, I think, in another way. Yes, please.
I just wanted to comment and thank you for mentioning the Meskwaki settlement people. And have you been on the settlement?
Have I what?
Been on the settlement.
No, I would very much like to go, but I haven't, no. Yes, back there?
This is an observation about Ames history. I don't know if anyone has told you that Main Street in Ames used to be Onondaga Street. It was named for the county where Cynthia Duff, one of our pioneer women, came from. She's from Syracuse. And there were a number of Ames settlers who were from New York.
Really?
There's a very strong history of women participating in the kind of voting they could participate in. And I'm wondering now whether some of that has to do with that New York influence. So
Check it out. That's really fascinating.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. We're all going to go home and think, do we want to put his stuff on the driveway? Don't worry, John.
He's a keeper.
She met him. So, thank you, Sally, so much for coming to Ames, Iowa. This is her first trip to Iowa, so this is...
Thank you for bringing me.
She's met some of our really interesting people here in the community so far.
Good visits.
So, yes.